Ever wonder how a simple idea becomes the chair you're sitting on? I mean, really think about it. That desk you're at, the coffee mug next to you, even the device you're watching this on, every single one of those things started as just an idea. So how do we get from a thought in someone's head to something you can actually hold in your hand? Well, the answer is this powerful, almost invisible system that's kind of running the world behind the scenes. You can think of it as the operational brain that takes ideas, takes raw materials, and turns them into all the products we use every single day. And today, we're going to make that system visible. We're going to talk about production management.
All right, so what exactly is this master plan? When we get right down to it, what does it really mean to manage production?
Okay, so the textbook definition says it's a process with 4 key actions: planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. But let's make that simpler. It's really like following a recipe, right? You've got your inputs, your ingredients, like wood, fabric, and a skilled person's time, and you manage every single step of that transformation until, poof, you get your finished product. You get that chair.
But honestly, here's a much better, more powerful way to think about it. It's both an art and a science. It's all about the challenge of hitting 4 absolutely critical targets. You have to make the right product at the right time, in the right amount, and for the right cost. If you can nail those 4 things, you've won. That's the game. So these 4 rights, they're not just some vague goals you stick on a poster. Nope, they are the core promises that every single successful production system is built on. So let's break them down, one by one. First up, we've got the right quality. This is non-negotiable. It just means the final product is exactly what was designed. Imagine an architect drafting plans for a house, right? Every measurement, every safety standard, it has to be perfect. Because if the quality of that plan is even a little bit off, the entire building is at risk. The stakes are high. Okay, next on the list is the right quantity. Now, you might think this sounds easy, but it's actually a super critical balancing act. You've got to produce the exact amount needed, not one more and not one less.
And it's a real tightrope walk, because falling off on either side is expensive. If you make too much, well, you've just wasted a ton of money on resources, and now you have products just collecting dust in a warehouse. But if you make too little, now you've got angry customers and major project delays. It's a lose-lose.
Promise number 3, delivering at the right time. Look, in the world of production, being late can be just as bad as getting the product completely wrong. Think about it. A construction crew can't start building a house if they don't have the plans. Delivering on schedule is absolutely essential for keeping customers happy and making sure the whole project doesn't grind to a halt.
And that brings us to our final core promise: producing at minimum cost. Now, let's be super clear here. This is not about being cheap. The key phrase is without sacrificing quality. This is all about being smart, being efficient. For example, using some fancy CAD software might have a higher upfront cost than just drafting by hand. But if it saves a massive amount of labor hours, the total project cost actually goes down. That is optimization.
Of course, it doesn't stop with just those big 4. There are other important goals that support them. Things like using resources as efficiently as possible, making sure customers are happy for the long haul, being flexible enough to change when you need to. And of course, a really big one, making sure the people doing the work are safe and well cared for. All right, so now we get the goals. That's the why. But what does this system actually look like in action? What does a production manager do all day? Let's dive into the playbook they use to get a project from start to finish. So the playbook actually starts way before anyone builds anything. First, you have product design and development. This is where you figure out exactly what the chair is going to be, what materials, what dimensions, the whole shebang. Next up is production planning. That's deciding, okay, how many of these are we going to make and when do they need to be done? Then you get to process design, which is all about the how. How are we going to make this? Are we using precise AutoCAD or are we drafting by hand? And finally, you've got plant layout, which is basically arranging the entire factory floor so that the work flows smoothly and efficiently from one step to the next. Okay, so once production actually starts, the playbook changes a bit. Now it's all about oversight. Production control is just constantly watching to make sure everything stays on schedule. Inventory management. That's that same tightrope walk we talked about, having just enough materials on hand. Then there's quality control, which means you're actively checking for mistakes along the way. Like double-checking those technical drawings for errors before they get sent to the client. And last but not least, maintenance management. This is just making sure all your tools and machines are working perfectly, so you don't have any surprise breakdowns. Whew. Okay, so after seeing all those moving parts, from the very first design idea to that final quality check, let's zoom back out for a second.
Let's connect all these dots and ask the big question. Why does any of this actually matter?
Because at the end of the day, production management isn't just some boring term from a business textbook. It is the hidden framework that makes our modern world, well, function. It's the system that guarantees the things we rely on every single day are made well, show up on time, and are built on budget. It's the reason everything from our chairs to massive skyscrapers just work.
And once you see it, it's a completely new way to look at all the objects around you. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you can see the system behind the chair, what other invisible process will you notice next?